Good evening everyone, and this is going to be the tutorial that teaches you how to fuzzy guard in IaMP. For those who already know what a fuzzy guard is, feel free to skip about 30 seconds of this video, which is just going to be me explaining what a fuzzy guard actually is. If you don't know what a fuzzy guard is, they usually come from games with two jumps like Melty Blood or Guilty Gear, where you can basically force the opponent to be in a standing animation, but they're allowed to crouch block. And what happens is you double jump and attack immediately, and your attack will hit the crouch blocking opponent clean because they're stuck in a standing animation. Now you could be wondering, how does a fuzzy guard work in IaMP where you have two air dashes, not two jumps? Well, basically, in IaMP there's a mechanic called Stagger. And what a Stagger is that every move, well not every move, but certain moves have a property of staggering the opponent. And when you're staggered, that forces your sprite to stand up. And in that point, you're only allowed to choose which direction you want to block. You cannot bomb, you can't reversal, you can't do anything else. If you try to do something else, it will discard your input and you will just end up not blocking. So let's see an example of Stagger. Set the dummy to crouch block. I'm going to do a high guard crush. Now 5B. You see how Reimu is staggered, forced into a standing position. So, you can probably figure out what's going to happen next. From that stagger, where they're forced to stand up, you do a jumping attack, and that jumping attack will hit clean if they are crouch blocking. Now you may wonder why this is important. As I said before, when you get staggered, you can actually choose the next direction you want to block. So, let's watch. Stagger with 5B, and we set the dummy to standing block. They block the next 5B. So that actually is not a combo, even though it adds up on the combo counter. It's not really a combo, because they can choose which way to block. The reason it adds up on the combo counter is so that it prorates the damage you're doing, and so that it basically scales things out so that you don't get all these free hits and then land a big combo after that. So everything is still prorated when you stagger. They just have to make a decision. It's basically like a 50-50. So, let's see a practical example of the stagger. Guard crush, stagger, jump A. Now you may be wondering, why did you cancel into jump 2C like that? Well, let's watch this. Guard crush, 5B, jump A. Now, Reimu's jump is kind of crappy, so if she just does the jump A, she's kind of vulnerable on the landing, because once you clean hit the opponent, they're allowed to move. They can do whatever they want. So they can counter you as you're landing, unless you cancel into something. And Reimu's jump 2C just happens to have a really, really good angle of attack. So, boom, boom. Now you're pressuring, and pressuring. So that's basically what you can do with Fuzzy Guard with Reimu. Another thing you can do with her is if you land a 5B at sort of max range, right there, mid to max range. So, guard crush, now stagger. Notice how the jump A hits clean. It hits clean because you high jump cancel fast enough so that the opponent is still stuck in the standing animation. And basically, this is one of Reimu's normal block strings. So if you're rushing down, you can just do business as usual. So there you have it. That's how Fuzzy Guard works in IaMP. Now in a bit, I'm going to show you a couple of examples with other characters. Not all of them have the same applicability as Reimu's. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. But just to give you a general idea of how it works, I'm going to give you a couple of clips. Here we have Marissa, and she's going to do a high guard crush on a crouch blocking Yukari. Her stagger move is 5B. Very good move. It's plus frames on block. Moves her forward. So basically, when you guard crush an opponent, you can fuzzy them with just a regular jumping B. Now if you want better position, you cancel into jump 2C. The jump 2C doesn't actually hit, but you don't really have much choice if all you do is just jump B. So, what you can do, 5B, jump B, jump 2C, air dash back, jump A, and that stops them from dashing out. Marissa can also do an instant air backdash as a fuzzy guard. Very difficult to react to, but it's also very difficult to do. You don't really get that much more out of it by doing it, but it looks pretty flashy. Like that. Kind of difficult, kind of not worth it, but if you can do it, more power to you. Now with Sakuya, her high-low game is already very, very strong. So, she doesn't really get that much extra off her stagger, it's just kind of there. So what I did was I set the dummy to high block, because Sakuya's high guard crush is actually 2 hits, so it takes a lot longer to show you that way. So, low guard crush, set to low block, stagger with 5B, jump B, hits clean. You can cancel into jump 2C, like you could with Marissa. It doesn't really hit, it's not that good, but you can do it, just so she has the air mobility options. Alice is actually a special case. Because most of Alice's rushdown and attack patterns are at mid to long range, her staggers are all up close. So, for Alice to get close is basically for her to go against her normal game. What Alice usually does is she gets a guard crush, and from that guard crush, she can do a unreactable 50-50. And the reason it's unreactable is because Alice has both high and low staggers. Let's set the dummy to block high. Low guard crush. This is 3dB. It's staggering the opponent, but I can use 5B to hit clean. Now let's set the opponent to block low. Now I can use 6B to stagger, or I can use dashing 6B to hit them clean. So basically, when Alice has you in the corner and you're guard crushed, and she's coming after you, keep in mind, all of these moves are plus frames on block. So she's going to get you one way or another. Basically, no real way to react to that unless you're psychic. The best answer to it is the bomb. Once Alice gets close and you're guard crushed, bomb. Get her off of you. Aside from that, she has a strong stagger game, but it's really situational. It only works once you're guard crushed, because when she's close, she usually gets owned up by the other characters because she's really a mid to long range character.